obviously the introduction of VAR to Scottish top flight this weekend. Is it something you're looking forward to?
I've never seen so much excitement about something that's... mate, I'm totally ambivalent to it. I think the best outcome for VAR this weekend is if we don't use it, it means all decisions are right, but it's not like it's an exciting new signing or something. That stuff doesn't rock my boat, mate, but I know others are really excited by it. Good luck to them, but I doubt anyone's buying an admission ticket to see what VAR does this weekend. I think they'll be there to watch the football, hopefully, anyway.
Just touching on that again, you say there that you'd rather we don't really hear much about it. Is that the best version of VAR when it only gets involved very, not very often?
Yeah, I mean, really, VAR is only there if the referees miss something. So hopefully, referees don't miss anything major and the game just plays. It's not, it's not there as a, starring attraction of the afternoon or evening. So yeah, if we don't see it at all, I'll be probably the happiest man in Scotland because everyone else seems to be really excited by it. But anyway.
10 goals in a week, 2 big performances. Is this Celtic back to their best, do you feel?
Yeah, look, I can see why people think that way, but, that's when you're kind of looking at outcomes, and if you're looking at outcomes, it suggests that we're in great form. But, I don't think we were far off it before then. I think people will probably recognise the difference is that, we weren't putting away our chances, and I still thought our football was decent, and we were creating chances, whether that was, in the league or in the Champions League. But obviously, people kind of look at the final result and say, well, they're going really well at the moment. But like I said, I don't think we've been far off it anyway, but always pleasing to score goals home and away, I think. And, for the players, they're human beings. I guess they get a bit of confidence out of that as well.
How do you assess Hearts? They were obviously so consistent last season. Would it be fair to say, do you think from the outside looking in that Europe has maybe affected their form domestically?
Yeah, potentially. I mean, it is it is a challenge for every club that has to juggle sort of European competition because of, it's not just the fact you're playing extra games, but there's travel involved, there's all these other sort of things that come into it that, other clubs don't have to deal with. So even in terms of focus and, it's difficult to maintain or, concentration on what the next challenge is sometimes. So, but, I mean, that's for them to assess. But, it's not easy when you're kind of, juggling the two competitions for sure.
And just on the subject of VAR again, will your approach to coaching change at all, or your message to the players change now that it's coming in?
No, I don't really. It's not. Look, I've been here sort of 16 months now. How many times have I mentioned referees after a game? I mean, it's just. I know it's a favourite subject up here, and after a game, it's the main talking point for the most part. But it just does not interest me. I don't think. The best referees are the ones we never notice because the game is what's more important. So, I'm sure the referees prefer it that way as well. But no, I'm not excited. It's not going to change my coaching. It's not going to change how I talk to the players. And to be fair, we've already sort of experienced it. Taking away the joking about it. I mean, we have it in Europe anyway, so it's part of our process.
And is there an injury update ahead of this weekend?
Pretty much as is from Wednesday night. Everyone pulled up okay from Wednesday night, and the ones who are close to coming back still, we're just sort of maybe taking a more conservative path. The team's going okay, and we'll see how the closest being probably Jota and 𝗙𝗂𝗹𝗶. We'll see how they are for Tuesday.
And 𝗙𝗂𝗹𝗶 is the latest of our talented youth players being linked away from the club. Already we've lost several to Man City, Liverpool and Bayern Munich. How can we keep our talents? How can we help them progress to the first team? Is that something that we could maybe look at doing loans like Callum McGregor did? He's just released his book this week. That was one of his pathways, and we believe he got Mark Lawwell in. That's something that he did at his previous job.
Yeah, look, I think with all these things, it's about sort of having a strategy in place. And as you said, we've our B team this year, we're really happy with the progress of a number of players there, and Steve McManus and Darren O'Day are doing a great job, and I'm obviously closely linked with them and following the progress. So all we can do is sort of provide that pathway. I mean, I know you say we've lost a few, but we've got Tony Ralston, Callum McGregor and James Forrest, who are living, breathing examples of, if you stay at this football club, you can sort of have a pretty good career. So it's not like we don't have a formula for that. It's just a matter of, you deal with every sort of case individually. And as I said, we this year we've closely aligned the B team with the first team, so that they're training up here at Lennoxtown. I see them every day. I talk to the coaches every day, and we're aware of the progress they're all making, and we feel confident that we can provide them a pathway to becoming Celtic footballers in the near future.
Great. Last weekend, Steve Hitchen was at the game. Now we understand he's not been brought on board at all, but it did raise questions about a possible director of football. Do you think that is a role that would be suited to this club? Do you think there's anything else that you need to help you with the club just now, or even?
I mean, if we're taking a roll call at everyone who turns up to our games for possible positions in this football club, no, it's like we're kind of working through those areas methodically. We have added to all the areas I believe we needed to add. We're continually looking at sort of making sure that we're as well resourced as we possibly can be, and we've made quite a few sort of additions into areas that I felt were important, and we'll keep working that way. If I feel something needs further bolstering up an area in our football department, or within here at Lennoxtown, then we'll do so. But it's not going to be sort of gauged by who comes to our games. That's not kind of us putting a job vacancy out.
And last weekend, Alex Bernabei had a second very impressive showing, whilst Oliver Abelard came off the bench and looked impressive. And in both last week and midweek, 𝗙𝗂𝗹𝗵 Ha𝗃𝗃𝗍𝗶 and Aaron Moy played a very big part in both wins. Are you happy that the guys who've come in the late window and the guys who've come from totally different football and lifestyle environments are now at a stage where you can trust them to give exactly what is desired and required on the pitch? I suppose, to touch on previous questions I've asked you, regarding player and club environment, they're also settled into comfortable lives off the pitch? Yeah,
look, I think, it is important, and I think there's obviously a distinct difference from this year to last year, where, we kind of were forced to throw guys in, which wasn't ideal, and credit to the players we did throw in. They just, took up the challenge, and it wasn't easy for a lot of them. This year, with all the players we've brought in, we've taken our time in terms of integrating them into the style of training, our style of football, and as you said, allowing them to get settled off the park. And I am pleased with all their progress. I still feel with, particularly, maybe not, Berner, because he came in, fairly early, but the other lads you mentioned, Sayed and Oliver and Aaron, I still think they'll be, better off in the second half of the year, because, missing pre-season, it does catch up with you at some point. You can't make that ground up, and the fact that we've got this mid-season break will allow us to put some more work into the guys, and it will be important, because, whilst we're in a busy period, we still know that the really important stuff happens after we get back from the break. That's when everything gets decided, and we'll still have a lot of games. And I'm really confident that guys like Aaron and Sayed and Oliver will all be, strong contributors to that.
One more question about the other night. You made a point of having 𝗙𝗹𝗹 go over and take up the plaudits of the fans. Is that for his own personal kind of benefit, or is it? I get the feeling he's a little bit too modest to appreciate a lot of that.
Yeah, he is pretty modest. To be fair, the only reason I did it, I felt sorry for the fans, because they were screaming out for somebody to do it. It was between me and him, and I wasn't certainly going to do it, mate. So I literally pushed him over, but I think it was a good moment, because, I think the fans, want to show their appreciation to the players, and sometimes, guys like 𝗙𝗹𝗹, or maybe, they're not scoring or they're going through a tough time. I still think the fans appreciate what they've done for this club, and they want to show that appreciation. And sometimes I think the players, for their own reasons, maybe are a little bit sort of shy in receiving that support. And there's nothing wrong with it. Our supporters will stick with our players through thick and thin. I think they've showed that in the past. Yes, sometimes they'll get frustrated with performances, but over the course, if people are putting in, and 𝗙𝗂𝗹𝗹 always puts in, our supporters will always appreciate it. So I thought it was a nice moment between two of them. But like I said, it was more done for the supporters. I felt for them, and like I said, I wasn't going to be jumping around, mate. So I had to be 𝗙𝗂𝗹𝗹.
And was it a big boost to get a clean sheet the other night as well? Obviously, your defences had to chop and change with injuries at centre half. Is that maybe going to help the future as well, just to get that clean sheet?
Yeah, again, I think I've said in the past, clean sheets don't really excite me. It's how we defend it that I'm more happy with, and I think our defending is becoming more solid as a group, and it helps that sort of 𝗁𝗁𝗃 and sort of Cam are settled now. I've said in the past that I think in particular centre half pairings are really important in terms of just understanding and all that kind of stuff. And we saw that last year with Cameron and Carl sort of being mainstays in our team. And we've just had really disruption in that position this year, with Carl obviously firstly missing pre-season, then picking up an injury just when he was getting back in, and 𝗁𝗁𝗃 came in late, and then 𝗁𝗁𝗃 picked up a couple of injuries. Cam was out, so that's always going to be a bit disruptive. So I think having those two settled is certainly helpful in just getting our understanding as a defensive unit. But again, overall, I think our defensive work hasn't been too bad through that period anyway.
Bear with me on this one. I'm just going to go back to VAR. And I know not everyone is excited about it. I think it's fair to say that there's some people maybe a bit worried about the kind of disruption to the flow of the game, and given how much of your game is based on getting the game restarted quickly, is that a concern at all to you at all, that it might break up the flow of the game a wee bit?
Yeah, I guess it's why I hope it doesn't. It's not needed, because it means that the referees are kind of letting it, getting the decisions right, and there's nothing major that goes on. I mean, again, we're kind of used to it with the Champions League. We understand how it's used, but you don't want too many disruptions during the game. For the most part, I think obviously there are incidents that get highlighted, but if you watch 20 games over a weekend, how many games does it really affect? Maybe one or two, and I think definitely from my perspective, if you're asking me what my hopes are for VAR, is that it doesn't need to be involved in any of our games, because the kind of referees taking care of things, but it is there to pick up anything that the referees miss, and if they do miss it, I mean, I've been here now, like I said, 15, 16 months, and on a weekly basis, all I've heard is managers or pundits complaining about referees' decisions. So, if this somehow, makes them feel better about things, great, but it has zero effect on me.
Hi, Ange. I want to ask you on VAR. 𝗙𝗂𝗹𝗹 and 𝗻𝗂𝗃𝗃 have both got back amongst the goals in the last few weeks. How pleasing is that for you that the guys up top, obviously goals are coming from elsewhere, but your two forward strikers are really getting back amongst it? Yeah,
really pleased. I think, again, they're both, in really good form, and obviously, 𝗙𝗂𝗹𝗹 went through a bit of a spell where, he's hitting the post instead of the ball going in, but good for him to get the goal the other night. But again, we've showed that, our wingers are also getting in on the act. You've had Jamesy obviously getting a hat-trick, 𝗙𝗂𝗹 got two, Dazen got one on the weekend. So, I think it's important. And then with our midfielders, Rio scored another goal. So, we want to have multiple threats, but there's no doubt our central strikers are important to that. And, having them both sort of in good form is great for me, because, we're going to need both through this busy period. And, I think the way I look at it is, combining them both and looking at their goals per game ratio as a duo, it's the equivalent of one fantastic striker, which would be humanly impossible to do with the schedule we've had. So I'm really pleased that both of them are contributing, both of them scoring goals, and that's what's important to us.
Obviously, the three competitions in 10 days, that almost perhaps forces your hand for a little bit of rotation. But can you take a positive out of that to give the perhaps so-called fringe players a more go?
Yeah, if you can tell me who the fringe players are, because, I think we changed, I think 5 players from the weekend to to midweek, and both comprehensive victories and both good performances. And I think, like I said, from my perspective, if we're going to maintain levels of performance and sort of get the results we need through this busy period, then we're going to need the whole squad. And the players have embraced that. I certainly don't look at it as fringe players or starters. I think whatever team we put out there is a team we believe can win the game of football for us. And those are the players that are most important on that day. And after that's done and dusted, we look to the next challenge. But as I said, the players are coping with it really well, and we need them to, because our injury, we're maintaining a decent injury sort of record at the moment. Most of them, I think, bar one, have been sort of contact injuries which are unavoidable, and that's keeping us at a really good level through this busy time.